What's up, everybody? Rob Swanson back here with another Real Estate Mogul Show. Welcome. We've got the gentleman back in the studio. I call them gentlemen loosely, but it came out of my mouth accidentally. We got the crew back in the studio, and we're going to have a good time today. We're going to talk about some things that over the last 20-some years of me being a real estate investor has been impactful and meaningful on my journey to creating true wealth through real estate investing. And so we're going to be diving into that today and talking about each one of our journeys in that respect. It's going to be a lot of fun. Before we do that, let's do this. How about a quick update, guys? What's been going on in your worlds these last few days?
Man,
I'm kicking us off.
Who's kicking us off?
Yeah, who's kicking us off.
All right. Well, I'm out in California still. I'm about to go on a little trip down the coast with some friends, but have been, Mike, I can empathize with you. I'm back in the mix with like morning routine, school, karate, gymnastics, the whole nine. And so it's been great. It's been a really good, fun change of pace. But I will say, like, to speak to the point of this show that we're doing about, being in proximity to people that are like-minded, and I miss the office. I have to say, I want to, it's nice when I can connect this way. We have good connection throughout the week in meetings and things and collaboration, but man, there's nothing like coming to the office, having that like real direct connection, and then letting that energy sort of seep into your day. So yeah,
well, that's a big deal. I mean, having connection with people that are going towards the same direction as you, and making connection and working out issues and strategizing and brainstorming, like that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, let's see. We've got some. I think we got a picture here too, don't we?
Yeah, you have a picture.
You're out there, and you went out there for this, right? It was.
Yeah, it was a family visit, but I was able to bookend it with daughter's birthdays, 26 and 19. This was at my 26-year-old's golden birthday on. It wasn't on the 26th of September, but it was the weekend before, and it was a Met Gala themed event, and everybody came, dressed to the T, and I had my tuxedo shirt on there, and honor of our grandpa Fremer, who wore those, didn't like to dress up, so all the time. So I did that, and it was a blast. I mean, absolute tons of fun, tons of good food, family, friends. It was great.
I like it. I think you're gonna have to tell Zeke, your oldest son, though, that 1980 called and they want their sleeveless sweater back.
Dude, I'm telling you, the fashion is like, oh, I wore that. Like when we were young kids, I'm about to turn 50 tomorrow. And, it's so fascinating to see the cycle of, fashion. It's come back full circle.
Totally.
With its own twist, though, it's definitely weird.
Yeah, for sure. Mike, what's cracking in your world?
Yeah, we're coming off. Rob, you should have a picture of the Munchkins over the weekend. So we went up to Steamboat, which is one of our favorite places up here in the mountains. We usually, for the last couple years, we've gone up there at least once a year. Typically in the summer, we try and catch the rodeo. That didn't work out this year, so we went up during the fall. And I put this picture in there, and it means a lot to me because a couple of years ago, we took this same picture on this same trail with our same three kids, obviously, as they're walking away. And so I just thought it was really fun. But the leaves up there were incredible. So higher up, so up on the top of the ski area, all the leaves were down. But in town where we were, the majority of them are still up. You can see the trees are maybe getting a little bit of bare, but still a lot of great color up there. And so it was just really fun.
Nice.
Just hung out for the weekend. There's it's the little stuff. They and here's a pro tip on Steamboat. If you go to the old drugstore, that 100-year-old building right on the corner next to the FM Light and Sons, they have a single scoop of ice cream for $1, a bigger scoop for $2, and right across the street is a candy store, and you can't get out of there for ice cream for less than, $25-30 with 5 of us. So they still have old school pricing. And so our kids get the biggest kick out of $2 ice cream. And so, it's one of those little memories where it's not expensive, but they love it. And so we go up there and have $2 ice cream, and the kids think it's the coolest thing that ever happened. So it was fun.
That's incredible.
That's sweet. I like it.
That's neat.
I like it. Henry, what's cracking?
What did I do? I tried to go on a fishing adventure solo. Didn't work out. Weather was kind of weird. Water was kind of weird. But it was fun. I woke up at 4 a.m., drove up into the South Park area of Colorado by myself in the pitch dark. So it was kind of peaceful. It was nice. I caught some fish, but conditions were weird compared to last year. We were that day, actually last year, Rob, you, me, Mike, and Nick were all there on that morning, and it was a different environment. Like everything was different, which was insane to me. Just a year apart, to be that different of temp, just the way that the grass was colored, the sky, everything was just different. So yeah. But yeah, that was good. I had a good weekend of that. My buddy got engaged over the weekend, so we did a surprise party for him. So yeah, it was a good time.
Nice. Well, here's the thing. Fishing is like real estate investing, right? Sometimes you just nail it, and other times it takes a little bit of time. Like you got to have the only way you're ever catching fish is if your line is in the water, right? And we talk about that all the time. The analogy of the line in the water is the direct mail out the door, is bandit signs up in the neighborhoods, is online ads, targeting areas. And you got to have your line in the water if you ever expect to catch a fish. So I like that analogy, and most people kind of get it, and it works because it's a real thing.
Yeah.
So guys, my wife and I, we've been, we put almost 5,000 miles, 680 some miles on the new airplane in the last 3 to 4 weeks. We've been from Denver up to northern Minnesota, down to St. Louis and back, and then Denver down to Tampa via Houston and across the coast to avoid some nasty weather. So just shy of 5,000 miles on the airplane in the last couple of weeks, 2 trips. It's been super fun. This is us heading down to Tampa. You can see I've got oxygen on because we were up high. My wife has her oxygen on her headset, but she's got it flipped up for the camera.
I was going to ask about that. I was going to, and also, did you guys have you have the nasal cannula?
Yeah, we've got the nasal cannulas. We've got masks. If we go up, nasal cannulas are legal up to 18,000 feet. Above 18,000 feet, you have to be you're supposed to be on a mask. And we were below 18,000 feet here. We were probably 16,000 feet here. So nice. we were good. And we have a pulse oximeter. So we're always checking our oxygen saturation levels. And we have a really cool oxygen pulsing system in the airplane that I put in that saves the oxygen massively, and it really shoots your saturation levels up. So we stay in the mid 90s almost all the time, even when we go up really high. It's pretty fun. But let's see. This shows you when we went down via Houston to Tampa, we ended up crossing basically across the Gulf, like down the coast of the Gulf, and then we cut the corner down to Tampa. We were always within glide distance of shore, but we were up high enough that that glide distance is 30 miles. So there were times that we were 30 miles offshore out over the Gulf of Mexico. And you can see here on the screen, all the glass panels, everything is blue because it's sky above and water below.
Wow.
And yeah, so
I just thought it was a cool looking a shot of the panel. I didn't know that the story behind it even more. Like, that's pretty incredible. I just love the panel look.
Yeah, it's a nice it's a G500 with the Garmin 750 GPS. Yeah, it's nice. It works really good. And there was the bug that we splattered, holy smokes, on the windshield like 20 minutes into our flight of a 4-hour flight. And
Perfect.
That's the view I had out my windshield for the next 3 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah, there's no windshield wipers.
No, there's no windshield wipers. And that dude was big. And we connected at like 14,000 feet. So I don't know what that dude was doing that high, but he was just up there cruising around, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah. And then finally, bringing the fishing analogies home. I know Henry had a rough day. I had a good day. Fishing 2 different places. But this was up in Wyoming. I just went up there with a couple of buddies and got back Saturday, I guess. And we fished the Gray's Reef up there in Wyoming. So had a good day of fishing. Actually, a good few days of fishing. It was nice.
That fish is saying, "Put me back."
Oh yeah, I threw him back. He's happily swimming through the waters right now as we speak. Guys, well, let's do this. Let's jump into the topic at hand. I just feel like the topic that we want to talk about here today is it's meaningful in a way that until you experience it, you don't truly understand the benefit of it. And what I'm talking about is being in a community and being around like-minded people that are going towards the same destination that you are. Maybe they're a little bit further in the journey along. Maybe they're a little bit farther back in the journey en route, but everybody's going towards the same destination. And so wherever you fit in that journey, whether you're the guy that's further ahead or the guy that's further behind or the guy or gal in the middle, there's things that you can add value to others to help them in their journey. And there's things you can draw from the experiences of people in the community to help you get where you want to go. And so the thing I wanted to talk about was that community, because I feel like here at the office, right? We have sort of baked in community that is we're all going towards the same destination when it comes to our personal goals with real estate investing, right? We have a mission here at FreedomSoft that says to help people make financial freedom through residential real estate investing simple and accessible to anyone, right? That's the goal. And it changed my life. It's changed so many people's lives. And the community aspect that we have here in the office pushes people towards that destination. So I'd like to hear what you guys think. How has community and being around community been impactful for you guys?
So Rob, this applies to, just to chime in, this applies to everything in life. And so if I rewind a lot of years and, started playing golf, and I had proximity, it originally started with my dad, who grew up playing, who had proximity to my grandpa, who grew up playing. And so, we know how this works. There's an old saying, birds of a feather flock together. There's a lot of different ways to say it. But when we're around like-minded people, I think, and I'm having a hard time really sort of pinpointing, there's a lot of different reasons it's so effective. But I think a lot of it is the mindset that you see from people who are doing it, even if they're brand new, right? There's a lot of power when somebody decides that they're going to go in a certain direction. And so every endeavor in life has hang-ups, setbacks, challenges. And I just, it's not hard for whatever reason. It's not hard to find negative, right? If you have a yard or a crop or a field or whatever, it's not hard to grow weeds. Just do nothing, and weeds grow, right?
That's right.
If you want to work towards an intentional result, it takes effort and it takes intentionality. And so, I think it's really hard to pinpoint what the power of a community is, but there's something about it, the momentum, maybe above all else, it's the belief. If you only hear about people playing good golf and you actually never see it, you never experience it, I think it's hard. If you just hear about people doing real estate deals, but nobody that you hang out with is doing any or has ever done anything, it's hard to find the belief inside yourself. And so the magic in getting around like-minded people in a community running towards a similar goal, regardless of what that is, there's power in it, because you feel like there's something about the human experience where we tend to feel like we're on an island, even though we know we're not. And so when you get around people moving in the same direction, the conversation changes, the level of belief changes, the momentum changes, the motivations change, your ability to dream and see things changes because it opens up the world of possibility. And so it's really interesting, Rob. You mentioned a community has people who are ahead of you, people who are in a similar place than you, and people who are behind you in the journey, which is always the case, right? You can always find somebody who's done more, and you can always mentor somebody who's where you used to be. That never changes, right? There's no arrival point.
Right.
And I think that's what's fun about it. That's what's challenging about it. That's what's unique about the human experience. And I think, the point that to kind of drive this home is we get to be intentional. We don't have to be, but as humans, we have the opportunity to be intentional about the communities that we plug into or that we disconnect from. And so it's amazing. There's, it's just the power of, if you're going to go do something great, or if you're going to go do something different, one of the first questions you should be asking yourself is, hey, who's already walked this path? Who's already moving in this direction? And how do I hang on to that? Right? Like there's a flock of geese somewhere flying towards a real estate destination. And there are plenty of flocks going elsewhere. So it's just a matter of how do I find the one that's already moving in the direction I want to go, and then how do I attach myself to it? And the power in that is, I'm having a hard time putting it in words. I think it comes back, tenfold at least when you get around the right people. You can't even see some of the benefit right up front that is automatically happening to you when you plug into a group like that or a community like that, because there are so many benefits from it on the mental side, on the momentum side, on the activity side, on the belief side. And it works with everything in life. If you want to end up in jail, go hang out with people that are moving in that direction. So let's not ignore that there's a negative side to this too.
Yeah, it's a good
There
point.
totally is. It works in either direction. You get to pick your friends based on where you want to go. I heard somebody say that once. I think that's a pretty good way to just sort of summarize it.
Well, and we've seen it for years, right? We've done bringing it back to the real estate destination and the journey, right? And you can apply it to golf, you can apply it to fishing, you can apply it to airplanes, you can apply it to art, you can apply it to just about anything you want to apply it to, right? But if we bring it back to real estate, we've done live events for years, right? We have hosted and created an environment where people that are looking for a community to plug into in order to move in a direction to accomplish a specific result can plug in and get around people like us, like-minded people, in addition to peers and others that are moving in a certain direction. And so the reason we're having this discussion right now is coming up just around the corner. we've got a live event that we're going to be hosting here in Denver. And it's about giving people the opportunity to come in and if people have been following this podcast and following this show and our discussions, they hear us talk about the shoulder rubbing and the arm locking and the conversations that happen just in the hallways that ultimately lead to producing results or ultimately lead to solving a problem or overcoming a hurdle and getting what we want out of business and life. And so we've created an event here in Denver, Mogul Live, that we want to invite people to. We want people to come and hang out with us for 3 days and experience what it's like to kind of be around our office and to hang out with us. Now, we're not hosting the event in our office. We've got to host it at a spot that's got a little bit more space and bigger for people to kind of have the elbow room. But if you want to get around a community of people that are going to a destination called financial freedom, we want to invite you to come out. And we've been doing this for years. And we've had different kinds of events. I can think of, we ran the Investor Lead Summit years ago, Mike. We ran the M3 marketing event years ago. We've run our business builder events. We've run very specific private money events. We've run a variety of things that oftentimes tend to be about recognizing a problem, identifying the pain that is associated with that problem, and then laying out a step-by-step plan and path to overcome that pain and that problem. And so that's also what this event is about. It's specifically not a singular strategy event, because the destination of financial freedom is not found through a single real estate investing strategy. You've got to have arrows in your quiver that you can pull out in the right scenario to produce the outcomes. And that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about and teaching the process and how do you do it. And, each one of us have gone through our own process of using real estate investing to further our journey towards financial freedom. And we're going to be just sharing those steps and what did we do right? What did we do wrong? What do we wish we would have done different? Where did we make a mistake? Where did it delay our results? What accelerated the results? We're going to be talking about that for 3 days on live sessions and taking the current market situation and saying, okay, with the current state of the world, the economy, the market, real estate, finance, all of the things that play into our decision-making process as investors to use the vehicle of real estate investing to get where we want to go. How do we apply all of those things and match and marry various strategies together to build a portfolio that rests on solid rock, right? There's a parable in the Bible that talks about building your foundation on sand or building your foundation on rock. And I'm a firm believer that building your foundation on rock is a lot better. It lasts a lot longer. It goes up a lot easier. And it works a lot better. And so we're going to be teaching, what do we see as the rock in the world, in the economy, in the market today that you can build your foundation on? And we're going to cover cash generation strategies and cash flow creation strategies and creative finance strategies and financial freedom, wealth building. And one of the things that I'm most excited to talk about, and then I want to bounce this to you guys because I want to hear your thoughts on some of this stuff. One of the things I'm most excited to do is at this event, talk about pouring the fuel on the fire of your real estate investing business. And that is money. That's private money. That's capital. Because when you have the capital to fund all of the opportunities and the deals that you go out and drum up and find, and you get the more you take action, the more you get lucky. people always step back and say, oh, he got lucky on that one. Well, no, he or she probably took massive action. And the more action you take, the more lucky you get. And the more times you get lucky as a result. And so we're going to show you how to take and build a private money getting system to fuel your business fire. And so I'm excited about that. Anybody that's listening to this that wants to check it out, you can go to realestatemogul.com/live. realestatemogul.com/live. Check out what the event's all about. Claim your tickets, and we'd love to see you in Denver. Gentlemen, what do you think about proximity and how's it impacted you?
Well, I was going to talk about what I'm most excited about this event is that it's kind of like a culmination of like the last 15 episodes that we've done on the podcast, and then also other things that we've been talking about externally outside the podcast, and bringing it all together for 3 days, right? And kind of to hit on what Mike said, you know, there's always someone out there that you can mentor, and there's always someone out there that has already done it. And, you know, if you're one of those people, or you're somewhere in between, this event is something that, you know, we're not asking you to reinvent the wheel, learn something completely new. We're just asking you to be in proximity to people that share a like-minded goal and are at different points on the timeline than you. And there's just there's so much opportunity to be in proximity to that mindset and the game plan that we already have set out in front of you. So there's no reinventing of the wheel here. It's just being in proximity to the attitude, the posture towards it works. And we just want you to be around the people that are actively doing it, so you can just feel a taste of that or get a hint of that. I'm most excited about that.
And let's back it up for a second, Henry, because you and I have talked about this just standing around here in the office. One of the things that I think, because you told me this, impacted you the greatest when you were starting your real estate investing journey, right? And you know, our freedom formula is built in phases, and it starts with a cash generation phase. And so cash generation can be, you know, a higher earned income, active income inside or outside of real estate investing. It doesn't matter. But phase one is you've got to get your income up. And so when you started, Henry, you started wholesaling. You started because that allowed you to learn deal evaluation, learn the markets, learn zip codes, learn what buyers are looking for, learn how somebody makes money with a house, right? Because when you learn how somebody makes money with a house, you can all of a sudden move to that phase two, which is create cash flow. You can begin to recognize how you could make money with that house. And as you know, those two phases, phase 1 and 2, are what I think about as the flywheel in the freedom formula. Those two things never stop. You're always creating cash, and you're always creating cash flow. And that's the flywheel piece. And one of the things that you told me was impactful standing around here in the office is, you know, what we might call our deal maker sessions, where you're like, hey, I got this lead, I got this address, I got this house, and, you know, my cash offer isn't working, or this scenario is happening, or title has this. And we would walk into the conference room, and we would sit there for 45 minutes, and I would take a marker up on the conference room, and I would map out this deal, and I would say, here's how I see the deal. Here and here's option A, option B, option C, depending on what the seller's primary need is. And we would just lay it out, and you would sit back. And I remember you sitting back in the conference room and just sucking it in, right? Absorbing it and learning from it, and saying, okay, I can go apply those things in my conversations, in my portfolio building, in my deal structuring. And it was those conversations outside of just regular training and regular, like the typical step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5 process. It was the weird one-off conversational things that added depth to the step-by-step process. Mm-hmm. And I think, and maybe you could speak to this, that those were impactful. And that's what we want to give people.
Yeah.
We want to give people those conference room, tabletop conversations at this event that really add depth to their process of learning.
Yeah, and I think it's like a little bit of how my mind works, because like in the cash generation phase, it was constant growth and learning and just slightly just being bad at the stuff that I was trying to mimic. And it gets you into scenarios where inevitably another question comes up. And I think what at the Real Estate Mogul like arena that we have set up, we do both scenarios really well. We have your trainings, right? Step 1, do this. Step 2, this is why you do this. But I think where we shine is the nuance in between those scenarios, which is kind of like where my mind starts to go really crazy. And this is why the little whiteboard sessions that we had were so beneficial, because I would do what I was told on video 1, video 2, video 3, but what happens 1.5, 2.5? And those are the scenarios that inevitably come up when you're talking to Mr. Seller or Mr. Buyer, and they ask a question that, you know, technically was sort of covered in a video, but the way that they worded it makes you want to ask, like, well, if it ended up like this, what's my exit this way? Or how would I run the math this way? And being in proximity and the ability to say, okay, I did what I was supposed to do, but now I'm in this situation. It makes me feel like this, or it makes me feel like it's going to go this way. What should I do? And to have someone in your corner to just say, oh, I've been in this scenario before, or this is exactly what you're going to do. Let's whiteboard it for 45 minutes. And you can just have the ability to absorb it and ask questions from there. I think a lot of people's minds get to that point because they're like, okay, I get it. Step 1, step 2, step 3, but what if? And their mind gets a little wondersome and they start wondering about all these scenarios. Mm-hmm. We're creating a community to where we're setting up the environment to where people can voice that and feel okay voicing those questions. And then we're going to be there to quote unquote whiteboard, whether that's in front of you in a live scenario or on a Zoom or just over the phone. Yeah, I mean, that's what was beneficial to me. So I think we're taking that idea and we're trying to showcase that to the masses and, let everyone get a taste of that, which is I'm excited about.
Well, and the cool thing is you also get the benefit of peers, right? Yes. Your peers not only learn from your questions, but answer your questions, right? Yes. And some of the coolest things that I've experienced over the years is when it's not the trainer stepping in and saying, here's the solution and here's how you do it. It's your peers stepping in and saying, hey, I experienced that deal in my market. Here's how I put it together. Here's how I modified the offer. This was the seller's main problem and the pain that they were experiencing. And here's how we structured the deal to solve that. It created a win-win for everybody. And I was able to make, X dollars and X cash flow out of it. And when you can start to interact, not just in some Facebook group where you don't know people and you're not really sure what destination they're trying to head towards, but when you can all be on the same page of focus and destination, all of a sudden the advice, the insight, the guidance is much more meaningful.
Yeah,
and I've seen that for years.
Yeah, and some people may listen and say, well, when I get to a certain level, I'll be good to go. But like what I'm experiencing right now is that the timeline really never stops. You just enter into new scenarios that you got to learn about. And so like I'm in pure, not just phase 2, but my main focus is learning as much as I can on generating cash in a small amount of time, so that I can generate cash flow for the long term. So I'm trying to quote unquote, like you said, pour that fuel on the fire. But what you could accidentally get yourself into is, wanting to fall out of that freedom formula that we teach and, go off on the fringe and I heard this or I heard that. It's really good to have the proximity to people to where they can kind of like hone you back in kind of thing as well. Because there's been some scenarios where I've brought up to Mike where I'm like, okay, this doesn't quite fit, but if I swung it this way and it worked, then it would be really good. And he's like, well, hold on, let's talk about what the goals are here. So to have those people near you to hear you out, but also just be like, okay, that's not what you've been doing. Let's pump the brakes kind of thing is also good. If it's always it's a nice thing to be able to walk down to Mike's office and get a hard yes or hard no sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think what's important about that is if you're not clear on the destination, right? Mm-hmm. And this is why we are so adamant about the freedom formula and our statement of beliefs, and it informs the culture and the focus and the direction that we have, like the objective that we have to build wealth through real estate investing. And if you don't have that, it's easy to chase shiny objects. It's easy to say, oh, I can do this deal because I can make money, or I can do that deal because I can make money, or, the objective is not to do deals. The objective is to create a life of freedom, whether that's financial freedom, time freedom, opportunity freedom, decision freedom. The goal is freedom. Nobody got into real estate investing to replace one job with another, ever, right? And because at the end of the day, they might say, well, I'm just trying to get out of my job. I'd be happy if my job was real estate investing full time. Well, guess what? There comes a time where that no longer makes you happy, right? There comes a time where true freedom is the outcome and the objective. And so when you have a very clear and specific and targeted goal of freedom, you can then back up and you can say, am I doing the right things today? Am I chasing a shiny object, or am I staying on point? And people that stay on point get to their destination faster. I'll give a great example, right? When I first got into this business 20 some years ago, I was doing all sorts of different kinds of deals. At the time, Denver had come through its early boom from the mid 90s, $1 billion in construction. They had redone T-Rex, the I-25 corridor. They had redone DIA and moved it from the old Stapleton area out to where the airport is today. $1 billion in infrastructure, and probably another billion in all the associated ancillary things that went from that investment. And so Denver from the mid 90s to the early 2000s had gone through this massive, rapid boom and appreciation. And so when I got into this business and was living in Denver, sellers, it was a seller's market, right? Sellers had control. There were no vacant houses around town. There was no boarded up houses around town. We were predominantly solving people problems. We were solving job transfer problems and divorce problems and distressed partnership problems and, you name it, tenant problems. We were solving people problems more than we were solving real estate problems. And what that meant was people had a certain expectation of what their house was worth and what the market was doing. And yet sometimes their price expectation and their timeline required them to do something somewhat creative. Now, as I say that, does anybody sit back and say to themselves, hey, that sounds familiar. Maybe that's where we are in the market right now today. Well, guess what? When I got into this business, that was the game. That was what I had to do. Like an all cash wholesale offer at a significant discount was few and far between. Almost every deal I did was a creative finance structured deal of some sort. And so I got really, really good at identifying the seller's problem, pain, and putting a plan in place that solved that. And I built up a really, really good portfolio. And I was wholesaling, generating cash. I built up a portfolio of creative finance deals, and that led me into the 2006 range where I felt like, okay, Denver had kind of popped a little bit earlier, but had still gone up through that 2006 timeframe. I got into the business in the late 90s to the early 2000s, and I hit 2006, and I felt like, I think it's maybe a little frothy. I don't know what the market's going to do. And I started to sell some of my portfolio and like turn some of that equity, the fake money, into actual cash. And turns out that was good timing, right? And because a year later, in August of 2007, things started to, that's when Wall Street stopped buying the debt and the crash began, right? People associate the crash with 2008, but it started, the triggering events was August of 2007, and what led to August of 2007 even started before that. And so, but I was clear on what I wanted to do. I generated cash, I created cash flow in a market environment that people said you couldn't create cash flow. Well, you can. You just have to know how to do it. And those are those side table conversations that we have to this day. Like, how do we do that in the market? Should I be buying in the market today? And there's two things to think about. There's purchase ownership and there's control, right? There's buying and there's controlling. And sometimes one is better than the other, depending on the structure of the deal. And those are the kind of things that at Mogul Live, we're going to be breaking all of it down and showing you how to think about, how do I structure this deal to not only protect my risk and my downside, but structure the greatest cash flow and potential upside today based on the scenario that you are staring at. And so, Henry, those are the kind of conversations that we have in the conference room. It's those nuanced things that are rooted from, my 20 years of doing this and the market conditions today being so similar to the market conditions when I was newer in this business, getting in and trying to build towards a financial foundation that ultimately led me to the freedom I have today.
What I saw too, like, as Henry was talking a little bit earlier, and as you're saying, Rob, like the proximity to being around these tabletop conversations, it's what I saw also in the roundtable, the Real Estate Mogul Academy roundtable call that we had the other day. And there was one guy in particular who presented a deal, and we got to like tabletop that deal, just kind of like what you're talking that you did with Henry. And he didn't just learn the one, like his main thing. Oh, I need to find buyers for this deal, and here's the deal. He learned how to present that deal. If he was watching and listening and really like paying attention, he not only got his one answer answered, but he got, information and how to execute 3 or 4 other things. And that wouldn't have come like, if he was just watching a video to
That's
say,
right.
How do I find a buyer and how do I talk to them? Well, that's great. He was doing it, but he had these like sort of cursory things that he was able to tighten up, which just accelerated that thing for him that he asked about.
Exactly. Well, if we think back to that scenario, and I think he had gone through our training in the academy on how do you pitch a deal, right? He wanted to wholesale the deal for cash, and he was in cash generation mode and phase. Mm-hmm. And when we looked at his sort of pitch deck and how he was pitching the deal, he was just missing a few like key fundamental things that answered the question, how do I make money with this house? And, the better you get at recognizing how someone makes money, and the better you get at telling the story of how someone makes money, the more deals you will take across the finish line, because buyers don't decide to buy on their own. They have to oftentimes be shown, here's the opportunity. And, even experienced buyers, right? Experienced buyers are busy. They get a lot of deals thrown at them. And so they don't have time generally to weed through your deal that is poorly presented to figure out if what you're saying makes sense, right? So the experienced guy doesn't have the time, and the inexperienced guy or gal doesn't have the experience, right? And so the better you are at making it fast, clear, obvious how someone makes money and proving to them why, you get more deals across the finish line faster. I'll buy a deal from somebody that's really clear in their presentation, because I don't have to spend a whole lot of time questioning whether this deal that just hit my email inbox makes sense, right? I don't have to weed through a whole bunch. And so that was one of the conversations and the things that we spent, that tabletop discussion on, was saying, here's how you tell the story of this deal better and get somebody's attention drawn to it.
Yeah, and that's it, because he already had the story, right? He has the story, he has the details, he has the data. He just doesn't know yet. He hasn't done it enough. He hasn't gotten the reps in how to present that most impactfully. And that's so right. Again, he was able to get his big question answered, and then 3-4 cursory things answered that allowed him to go back, probably organize that pitch deck in a way that now all of a sudden his story is very clear to the people that he's presenting it to.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, let's take that. Let's say that we're walking up and down the hall. I'm going to put you guys on the spot real quick. And you don't even know what I'm going to ask you yet, but let's say we're walking up and down the hall here at Freedom Soft, and Henry, you got a deal, or Mike, you got a deal, or Joe or I've got a deal, and we're going to go pitch that deal. We're going to go pitch that deal. We're going to go flip it wholesale. What's the number one thing that you guys think should be representative or represented or shown on that deal? Like, if you're going to get somebody's attention, what's the number one thing that you think has to go into the pitch and the presentation of that deal to hook somebody's attention and get them to raise their hand?
A good hook with a value prop, and then a good description, 5 to 6 sentences on the potential that the buyer would be able to reap if they did that deal.
So give me an example of a good hook. What's a good hook?
Great cash flowing rental, 3-bed, 2-bath in a great neighborhood.
Okay. All right. Mike?
The numbers and money. People don't want to buy real estate. People want money. So I think the sooner they understand that, the better off they are. Either here's how you make money as a rental. Here's how you make money on a fix and flip. Some properties you can, potentially do both with. Right. But in my mind, the hook is, here's how you put X amount of cash, or the result, because that's what they're after. There no real estate investor said, well, they may give you this answer, hey, I'm looking to buy real estate, but the underlying answer to that is, I'm looking to make money. I'm looking to make short-term money on a flip, or I'm looking to make long-term money on a rental. And so, to quote whatever that movie is, show me the money. In my mind, that's the hook.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's what Henry said, right? Like, Henry, the first thing when you asked him, Rob, Henry said, great cash flowing property, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's talking about the cash flow right up front. This is the benefit. This is how what are you going to do? You're going to make money with this house this way. And so, I think it's important I think the story and the hook is the thing, that you have to be, how is it that you're presenting that they're going to make money? And can you do that in a way that's a little bit, maybe that stands out from the masses. And then you present really good deal because you got good at finding good deals, and they're going to be, you know, you hooked them, right? Value prop, like Henry said, and then they're in. So, and then it's just a matter of them confirming those numbers.
Yeah. So I think about that, and I think like a hook, to me would be cheap cash flow, easy rehab, right? Or, something to that effect where, people want the cash flow. They want an easy rehab. They want to be able to see that they can get it across the finish line good. Top zip code, right? Great cash flow, best zip code in town, right? That's your hook that gets somebody in. And then to Mike's point, show them the money, right? And so the more people are confused by how to show the money, and this is something that I see happens a lot. A newer real estate investor doesn't know when to present a deal as a fix and flip, as a short-term deal versus a buy and hold. And so sometimes they pitch a cash flow deal based on equity and discount, or they pitch a fix and flip deal based on rent. And it's like you missed it. Like you missed the main opportunity. And it's just because they don't know how to do it yet. And so there's a framework that you can go through on every deal. And the framework, if you follow it, clearly shows you've heard this term, highest and best use. If you follow the framework, the simple, like fourth grade math will take you to the highest and best use of a piece of property every time. And so now when you're pitching it, you're pitching a very specific outcome because it's the best structure and strategy for a deal. So you attract the right type of person. What people tend to do is they pitch sort of a generic or general deal, and they attract everybody. And then the fix and flipper says, oh, that's not a good fix and flip. Or the buy and hold guy says, oh, that's not a really good buy and hold. And you're spending all this time with these people that don't match the highest and best use outcome of the deal. And so one of the things that we're going to do at Mogul Live is we're going to do some deal maker tabletop sessions, and we're going to take live deals. We're going to break them down. We're going to push them through the framework, and we're going to show people how to evaluate what is the best structure of an offer to the seller and the best structure of operating or executing on this investment, either as the wholesaler or as the buyer. Because remember, at this event, I'm going to show you my 7-figure private money blueprint. So you're going to have the capital and the fuel that you can pour on the fire of your real estate investing business. You're not going to be stuck having to wholesale that deal, waiting for a buyer to come in and raise their hand. Now, it's great when you have options. I love having 3 buyers wanting to buy a deal from me and 2 private lenders wanting to fund that deal. Now I get to decide, what am I going to do? And when you have the freedom of decision freedom, life becomes really good. And most people spend too long to get to that place. They think about financial freedom, they think about time freedom, but man, I'm telling you, one of the most important things that you can have in your life is decision freedom. The freedom to make the decision that you want to make on any deal that comes your way, because it's building the optimal outcome for your intended life. And, we talk about life by design. In fact, my wife and I have an entire marriage slogan that is simple with flair. That's our marriage slogan, simple with flair. We like to live a relatively simple life with moments of massive flair. And my wife is the simple in that equation, and I'm the flair. She likes to keep it simple, and I like to add pops of, whoa, what just happened? And that makes life fun. And the same thing happens in your real estate investing business. When you are designing your business to create simple with flair, you have a very specific objective. You know where you're headed, and you'll get up every day and you'll do the work, you'll learn the thing, you'll increase the effort with the skill to get the result that you want. And it comes back to the why. The why for me was living life by design, right? Living life free, financially free, time free, decision free. I get to live life free because I'm making the decisions in my business life that ultimately serve my personal life. And I'm building the outcomes that I want. That's what we want to show people how to do. Because, like, yes, real estate investing, great. Real estate investing is not the thing that makes me excited. The fact that I left last Thursday and went up to Gray's Reef in Wyoming is what gets me excited. And real estate plays a big piece of my ability to go do that. And it can play a piece for anybody. That's what's cool about it. Guys, what do we want to talk about to wrap this thing up here today? Any insights and final sets of wisdom from the Sultan of Psychology sitting over there?
I don't know if it's wise or not, but here's what the word that came to mind as we're talking through this community and proximity is speed. And I think this is really a single word that kind of brings it all together. So if you're determined, you can go out through trial and error and a lot of time and figure out how to close deals, what's a wholesale deal, what is a terms deal and all this stuff. And you can go and try and, I screwed that one up. Next time it comes up, I'll figure it out. And you can, if anybody that's determined, I'm not going to tell anybody they can't do something. If you're determined, you can go figure it out. The power in the community, as we've been revisiting this topic here over the last, 45 minutes or so, in my opinion, comes down to speed. When you get around people who are doing and who have been there, done that, and you have a community that you can say, hey, I'm talking to a seller. I don't think a cash offer here is going to work. What else could I do? And somebody can step in and say, oh yeah, this is just like a deal I closed 2 years ago. Go do this. I'm not going to say it completely eliminates trial and error, but it eliminates a lot of it. And when you are not operating out of trial and error and you're more operating out of, I know what to do, the speed to your destination gets amplified many, many times over. And so again, we can put anything on here. You can go figure out how to hunt, right? And this is literally, I've been hunting once, team. So understand this. I'm not a hunter, but here's the deal. My wife's brother has been doing it for 4 decades, right? And I don't know how many animals he has harvested successfully, but it's a ton. So I went hunting with him last fall for the very first time. And guess what I didn't do? I didn't go out there and trial and error it. Now, could you? Yeah. If you were determined to learn how to hunt, you could go just try and figure it out through trial and error. You know what the faster way is? To just find a community. And in my experience last fall, it was with one other person. Now, I didn't get an animal on my first hunt, but I learned a truck ton. What do I need to bring? How are we going to move? Where are we going to go? What are we looking for? What are we tracking? There was a little bit of snow on the ground. How are we going to approach this? How are we going to read wind? And all of this happened in one 3-day event where I learned all this stuff. Why? Proximity. That was it. So talk about a shortcut. It's a massive shortcut, and we can apply that back to real estate. You can apply it to anything. Get around the community, right? So we're all on a map that says you are here. And then somewhere else on that map is a destination that we're desiring to move towards. And you have a couple options. You can either trial and error your way through the whole thing and take a much longer time to get there, or you can get around the right community. And I don't want to say shortcut, because there's, you're going to still bump into stuff because that's how life works. But the path is a whole heck of a lot shorter. I'll tell you that.
I do want to say shortcut. It is a shortcut. When you get around people, you don't end up wandering through the woods to destinations that are unknown. You actually find the trail and you walk it. And it's the accountability, and it's the motivation, and it's the camaraderie, and it's the peer group that surround you that walk that path with you to get you to the destination faster, which is the definition of a shortcut. So, guys, I think that's a great way to bring this one home. Here's what I want you to do, guys. If you like these conversations, what we want you to do is like and subscribe. Like this on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, share this from your favorite podcast player, and let someone else know about this show. It'll keep us motivated to keep doing this and bringing you more and more value as we do it. So with that, everybody, we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
See ya.